Good evening, everyone. First of all, my apologies that I am interrupting in your experience of soaking in this sacred, silent atmosphere created by a profoundly spiritual, scientific, and extremely practical talk or sharing by our international president, Mr. Tim Boyd. But I have to do this because here we are again at an intersection of two cycles, one of which is completing, giving way to the starting of another. And every year at this point, it seems that the next convention is a year away. But where do these 360 days go in a jiffy? It's a mystery. And before we know it, the preparations for the next convention are already underway. But one thing I would like to share with you, which I felt very different this time and at this moment, and I don't know how many of you resonate with it. Did we miss a day or two of the convention? Because it just passed in a blink of an eye. I felt like that because, I have been attending many conventions, but this time it felt like it's starting, oh, it's already the last day. So, and I have also heard that the time that we spent in joy passes very quick. And on the contrary, the time that we have challenging times or suffering, that is psychologically long. So by that logic, I assume that all of us had a wonderful, joyful time in the past few days that we gathered here. And one thing that I have really come to appreciate after witnessing the preparations for the convention is the value of an experienced and dedicated and committed team of individuals who take it upon their shoulders to do their best to make the convention pleasantly memorable to all the delegates attending. And to begin with, also my apology to all if I seemed at some time rude, that you wanted to talk to me, but I couldn't because I had to run away for some work. So in case that has happened, we can catch up later after the closing of this convention. And I hope that all of you had a pleasant stay and to some extent received the invisible silent benediction that the gathering of this kind can provide, as our president said. Benediction of getting closer in touch with our higher self and taking the charge of transformation in our own hands. The transformation that reflects in a way we live our daily life. And this vote of thanks, which is more of a gratitude, is towards all those who contributed in any degree, less or more, from any distance, near or far, and in any form, visible or invisible, in making this convention a grand success, as we have already proved it, by adding value in our lives and making everyone stay decently comfortable. Regarding accommodation, we maintained our approach of keeping all the accommodations decongested so that the delegates can experience a more comfortable stay. This year, we tried to provide some chairs and tables additionally in all of the buildings, and a long-standing request from the delegates that we get every year to have more comfortable chairs in the Adia Theater was fulfilled to some extent. And we continue every time to add some more value-added services, whether it's the drinking water in every building, in every floor, or even the internet service in more and more buildings. Also, be it the service of the laundry that we tried providing this time, and I hope many of you would have made use of it. And in spite of all these things, those who have had any sort of inconvenience, there is always a room for improvement that we can do, and we'll try to implement those suggestions or observations next time, whatever is within reasonable limit. But at this time, I would like to request our delegates for future purposes that while registration, if you mention all the things that you want, it is easier for us to allot you a place which is as per your request. And earlier you register, more are the chances that you will get your desired place. So for the next time. And although I am standing here alone, being the convention officer, I have been really fortunate to have a team which is an ideal blend of all the attributes required for this purpose. And I wish to express my gratitude to each and every one of them personally, which I will do when I meet them in person, but right now the factor of time forces me to keep the list short and limited, and I'm sure in case if I miss someone, they would be generous enough in forgiving. As we know, having the plan for a task is half the work done. So I extend gratitude first of all to all the convention program planning committee involving International President Mr. Tim Boyd, International Secretary Ms. Maria Atma, International Treasurer Ms. Nancy Sechrist, the resident volunteer Mrs. Catalina Isaza Cantor, volunteer Ms. Sarah Ortega Van Vloten, for creating a wonderful and profound program after much discussion and deliberation and improvisation when needed. After planning comes the implementation, and I extend gratitude to Ms. Maria Atma, who is continuously and constantly working, motivating, and monitoring the implementation in spite of the fact that she has so many other works to do at the same time. Going further, to the implementation part here at Adyar, I extend heartfelt gratitude to the General Manager, Mr. Jay Kumar Kannan, and his office for planning and completing all the projects related to the convention within the time limit and giving valuable inputs based on earlier experience whenever necessary. Now, you know, this is like a small city where we live in TS Adyar, and it has several departments all of whom contributes for the convention and around the year. So I'll begin with the 3 departments that are involved more than 100% in the convention, not 3, more than that, which are involved in the convention before, during, and after. First of all, from Housekeeping and Sanitation Department, the head, Mrs. Vijaya Ravindran, who is always one step ahead in the work. And all the settings that you see in the theater, in any workshop place or Blavatsky building, headquarter halls, is led under her able supervision and her whole team of the department with Mr. Yobu Babu, who also shouldered the duty of the inquiry officer this time to the best of his capabilities and did a very good job, along with Mrs. Tilagavati, Mrs. Padmavati, Mrs. Suganti, Mr. Raja, Mr. Dinesh, and Mr. Vishwa as the night watch at inquiry office, along with Mr. Tamilarasan, Mr. Jaykumar, Mr. Suresh, and Mr. Manohar. Thank you. Also, the maintenance department head, Mr. U. Ilangovan, who is so full of motivation, enthusiasm, and positivity that he never says no to any situation, whether routine or emergency, and willing to help everywhere, and his department did their best to complete all the work within the time limits, and not only in resolving the complaints at lightning fast speed, but also taking care of all the situations, unforeseen situations that arose during this last 1 week, which were even beyond the scope of maintenance department as well. Thank you. Then the leadbeater chambers, the head of the department, Mrs. Veena Ramchandran. LBC hosted almost 100 delegates, along with Mrs. Veena Ramchandran, Mrs. Shinde, and Mrs. Lakshmi Devi, and the whole LBC department for taking good care of the delegates staying at LBC, taking food there, especially the chefs, Mr. Srinivasan and Mr. Ganapati, for very good food preparation along with their team of assistants. Also, thanks to the LBC reception team, which included Mrs. Catalina, Ms. Sara, Mrs. Swatini, Mrs. Nitya, Mrs. Hamsa Dhoni, Mr. Krishna Swami, for efficiently carrying out the whole work as a reception, receiving the guest whether night or day, 24 hours. And not only that, completing the C-form paperwork, which is a very important thing in the case of foreign delegates, fulfilling it with accuracy and within time, which is a mandatory requirement and to be done within 24 hours of any foreign delegate arriving or leaving. And so it is of great significance that all the foreign delegates who are staying, upon leaving, kindly inform the reception team at LBC Lounge. Thank you. Then the security department, the head of the department, Mr. K. Ravindran, who is always on the lookout, and his team, which is the largest department for keeping the campus safe and secure and managing so well the management of traffic, the movement of the vehicles, trying to avoid any disturbance while the session is ongoing, and any other things that they can take care of to give us a perfect atmosphere to listen to the talks. Thank you. Then our Treasury Department, head of the department, Ms. Nancy Sechrist, and the whole Treasury team, including Mr. Vignesh, who is the person behind setting up all the online payment and registration procedure for the convention, along with Mr. Ramesh, helping in the currency exchange. Then our youngest head of the department, of the garden department, Mrs. Tilagavati, and her team, along with Mr. Shivaraman and others, for keeping the campus beautiful, well-maintained, in spite of the fact that there was a lot of additional clearing that had to be done due to the cyclone before the convention, for which we needed additional human resources. And all these plans that you have seen for all these past 5-6 days have been arranged by the garden department and in the rest of the campus also. Thank you. Also this year you may have observed during your stay a new initiative by the name of Adyar Eco Development that has been started, under which the workshops and familiarizations have been conducted at Garden of Meditation and Olcott Bungalow. Thanks to Mr. Vignesh, who is the TS coordinator for this project, and Mr. Josh Brooks and his team from Pichandikulam Forest Consultants for taking this initiative forward. Also, a special thanks and gratitude to Dr. Revati, who is in charge of the dispensary, along with her assistant, Mrs. Alamelu, for not only keeping us all in good health, but cheerfully responding, calmly responding at any time of the day, because during the past few days we have been disturbing her for somebody or the other, either in the middle of the night or 2 o'clock in the morning, and she is always with a cheerful face attending the person, the patient, and giving the due treatment or the guidance. So thank you so much. Vasanta Press, head of the department, Mr. Bhaskar, who is full of ideas and creativity and a problem solver, and his team for all the printouts that we have in the delegate kit that you have received, and Mrs. Vibhuti Anand, who designed the cover page of the program booklet that all of you have received. Thank you. And the Theosophical Publishing House, head of the department, Mrs. Vijayavir Raghavan, and her team for bringing TPH closer to us at Kashi Vilas to make it easier for the delegates to purchase the books, and also along with that, something very special that we all realize that the delegates from whether in India or abroad, they take the incense sticks which are provided from our Theosophical Publishing House. So thank you for that. Editorial department, head of the department, Mr. Sukesh and his team for all the editing work that goes in the convention and for the print media management. Also, the Adyar Library and Research Center and Suren Narayan Archives, head of the department, Miss Jayashri Kannan, Mrs. Radha Raghunathan, Mrs. Geeta Jaykumar, Ms. Vedavati and team for arranging wonderful and inspiring and informative exhibitions in Library Display Room and Suren Narayan Archives. Blavatsky Memorial Museum, head of the department, Mr. Byrne Jesse, along with Mr. Hem Sundar. Thanks to them for arranging the exhibition in the museum and explaining with all the energy every single story behind the objects of historical interest. Also, thanks to Adyar Art Conservation Project team for organizing the art exhibition under the guidance and active participation from Mrs. Elif Kemisli, Mrs. Erika Georgiadis, Mr. Sukesh, Mrs. Anupama Gaur, and her team of Mr. Kayam, Mr. Brijesh, Mrs. Arva, and Mr. Vincent. Thank you. Also, thanks to Mr. Shravan Krishnan, Varun, and team. Shravan Krishnan, who is the head of Besant Memorial Animal Dispensary, for the marvelous work that they do all around the year with our friends, with our life which is being expressed in other forms, and whether it's a snake or it's a camel, it's a dog, cat, monkeys, whoever they get in a situation of crisis, they bring it and then they nurture and care for it until that life form is back in fit condition. And along with that, they help in cleaning the trees or the branches that fell during the cyclone. Thank you. Ms. Sudha Chittamuru from President's Office for taking care of arranging transportation for the delegates who requested, which is a very, very big task. So thanks to her too. Mr. Anand in the IT department for technical support and Wi-Fi arrangements. Ms. Sara Ortega for uploading the C forms, updating the C form. Mrs. Catalina for updating the YouTube live link. And Mrs. Jarina for all postal dispatch and office help in many details. And Mr. Shiv Kumar in General Manager's office for providing necessary helping hand whenever and wherever needed in a timely manner. Apart from that, we have, as you know, Olcott Educational Society, and it has many institutions. So thanks goes to Mrs. Gargi Ravindran, Mrs. Lalita R., Mrs. Shashikala Sridharan for all the inspirational work that is being done by them and their respective teams. And all of us must have visited the stalls and bought the things made by them throughout the year. And also thanks and gratitude to Mrs. Lily Boyd for overseeing the work at Social Welfare Center, Olcott Memorial Higher Secondary School, and Vocational Training Center, and especially for the convention bags which we are carrying, all of us, and which have come out so beautifully. Thank you. Also, Theosophical Education Society, Mrs. Sonal Murali, Director of Adyar Theosophical Academy, and her team of enthusiastic and dedicated staff for organizing dynamic presentations and the exhibition of student explorations during the convention. Also, our sincere gratitude to all the speakers, moderators, facilitators, and participants of the dialogue and discussion groups for sharing with us their understanding and views on the theme of the convention in general and on the theme of the session in particular, in a lucid manner, which is also one of the highlights of a gathering like this, to be able to listen and interact with so many people from different parts of the world under one roof. Thanks goes to Venerable Olande Ananda for conducting silent walking meditations every morning, and also Mrs. Vijaya Lakshmi for conducting the Bharat Samaj Puja every morning, and the volunteers under her supervision who conducted the Bharat Samaj Puja. Talking of the volunteers, thanks to Mrs. Suryana, whose sweet voice you must have heard this time, making the announcement instead of my not so good voice. So thanks, Suryana, whom all of you must have seen and heard, and coordinating with the camera person for the right frame to be captured. Also thanks to Ms. Merike for coordinating the volunteers, Mr. Shiva, Ms. Himena, Ms. Prachi, Mr. Aditya, Ms. Wailing, Ms. Smita Pragyan, Mr. Kaustubh, who volunteered for different duties during the convention. Thanks to the Order of the Round Table and the Ritual of the Mystic Star members to give a powerful sacred impulse at the beginning of the convention every year. Thanks to Mr. Parvez Mullah and Mr. Mehboob Qazi and our Olcott School children who came specially to do the prayers. A very warm and heartfelt gratitude to all those volunteers who have helped in various degrees, because there are levels that even I am not aware who did what at what level. So whoever have helped in various degrees at so many stages and levels of preparation for the convention and during the convention to make this gathering pleasantly memorable. Also, thanks to World Federation of Young Theosophists for the Poetry Circle giving us a wonderful evening. Thanks to Nadam Group for the wonderful classical dance presentation. Thanks to Mrs. Chandrika Mehta for the devotional meeting and taking us to a different level of consciousness with a variety of devotional songs. Thanks to TS Resident Choir, TS Arya Resident Choir, and all those who presented in the Members Talent Show, and thanks to Mr. Vinay Patri who moderated that session. We wish them all the good wishes in their noble endeavors. Now, as you know, all of these things are there, but apart from that, the services that we take to run a successful convention are many, and without them it would be very difficult. So apart from this, I extend gratitude to the following for their valuable services in a timely manner for the convention, for the good planning and execution for all of us to have a smooth convention without interruption. First of all, the Bangalore City Lodge. The team consists of Mr. Sanat Kumar, Mr. T. Srinivas, Mr. Srinivas Gupta, and Mr. Santosh. But they are only the core team. There are, as you might have seen, so many volunteers and workers who are running the canteen during the convention period. And am I right in saying that most of us have gained a kilo or two? In the last few days, maybe? Because, yes, delicious food. Of course, that is not the main attraction for the convention, but good to have it. So thank goes to the Bangalore City Lodge for and it's not only the quality or the food, but the devotion with which they serve. And I talk to them and they take it as a service for the pilgrims who are coming here to attend the convention. So for them, it's a matter of great joy to serve. Apart from that, Kumareshan Tent House, Shanti Construction Lighting, Chandra Sound System, Mr. Shankar and his team from Inspire Network, Mr. Sridhar from Theme Lines, Mr. Vishwanathan of Raja Travels, SK Sanitas from the mobile toilets, Archana Landscapes, Prithvi Currency Exchange, Verdure India Landscape, and all our friends and correspondents from the print media. I extend heartfelt gratitude for providing the services in timely manner. And I cannot complete this thanks without mentioning Mr. Gopalakrishnan. Okay, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, our photographer whom we know as Mr. Gopi, whom you have seen going around from place to place, covering all the events, even though he has to return late at night from here and come up early morning. Thanks, last but not the least, to all the delegates. Our sincere gratitude to all the delegates who took time out of their respective schedules and joined us either in person or online. And I hope and wish that we all will carry the spark of inspiration to put theosophy in practice, to manifest the transformation of which the wise of all ages and spaces have spoken, that brings along with it eternal joy and peace. And thanks to my family members, my parents, my wife Catalina, and my daughter Yuna for their understanding and support, because in spite of me being not able to spend enough time with them during the last some time. So thank you. And thank you one and all for making this convention pleasantly memorable one. And before now I invite the children of the Olcott School to do the Shanti Mantra, I request our International President, Mr. Tim Boyd, to say some final words for the closing of the convention.
The list, as you heard from Shikhar, is long. But I do have to say that his list is woefully incomplete in one respect. This convention begins months ago, and it takes many, many people to make it happen. But there is one person in particular through whom all of this is made to happen. That person was not mentioned during the course of the thanks. I do know for a fact that his wife makes a point of it prior to convention to make sure that she feeds him plentifully for all the weight that he will lose during the course of trying to see to the needs of all of us. And that's Shikhar. It's a monumental feat, and he has taken it on with the same sort of attitude of mind that you witness every single day. He's done that for the last 2 years. I'm a genial person, but I couldn't do it. He's remarkable in his service to this place and to this convention. So I want to thank him for that. I think he already has said thank you to each and every one of you. I mean, sometimes we have the thought that we're coming here for what we can gain. But that thought fades very quickly. And each one of us that has come here, even if we have had little or nothing to say, we've added to the experience of everyone that's here. And for that, that's my vote of thanks for all of you all. It's been a wonderful occasion. As always, there is this coming together, and then there comes the time when we part. But hopefully it's something where we part enriched, that there's something that we take away from here that stays with us, a touchstone that we can touch and look back to. So with that as what we have in mind every year, I say thank you to you all. I say thank you to all of those souls, those great souls that have made this place, this organization, this vision of a possibility, have made that possible. I'm thankful to all of them, because without them, none of this happens. And I'm also hopeful that among this group of us, that even as we regard those great ones that have come before us, the Blavatskys, the Besants, the Taimnys, the Berniers, that each one of us in our own way will be that to those future generations that are coming behind us, and they are coming behind us. And so for that, the work that you have all done in paving that way has been invaluable. So we should thank ourselves as well as all others. And with that, I think I will turn it over to our wonderful girls from the Olcott School to close it out with some final prayers and song.
Okay, this convention is now closed. Wish you all a very happy, healthy, and harmonious this year. Thank you.